to SlamCast, where we chat with creatives about their process and how they navigate the grinds of promoting themselves. I'm one of your co-hosts, Brea.
And I'm Neil. We're both producers and studio technicians here at Slam Academy, a music production school for online and in-person learning based in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. And today we're here with Chuck Love. Give it up for Chuck, everybody. Yeah. He's the embodiment of music itself and has been a producer and multi-instrumentalist for over 4 decades. Hi, Chuck.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, that's right. I'm supposed to grab this.
Hi, Chuck.
I forgot about this. It's not the kind where you have a mic stand in your face.
Yeah,
okay,
no,
here
it's
we
fine.
go.
We'll get there.
Okay. Some
be in the budget
assembly
soon.
required.
Yeah. Thanks for being here today, Chuck.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
Always good to be
Good to
here.
see you. So I guess let's just start at the very beginning. Let's go back to baby Chuck Love.
Baby Chuck Love. Oh my goodness.
I want to know, did you grow up in a musical family? How did you get started?
My father was very musical. He was a soloist singer. He also was a trumpeter, played trumpet in the military band. It was in the National Guard. So he was playing like trumpet trios, and he was also a choir director and a soloist singer in church by the time I was a small little kid.
Okay.
And so my experience with music was I was the guy that could pick out the melody on the piano like at 2 years old, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it just never stopped from there. I always had a real head for harmony and wanting to learn how to play musical instruments and kind of rip and tear attitude as far as how to do it. I never really had a great relationship with lessons, which is something I definitely want to explore because it's coming back here as I'm 60 plus years old. So I definitely have some things to say about that. But so basically I had a really good musical ear and had a real fascination for music and what makes it happen, and from a very young age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And when you say you were bad with lessons, does that mean like being taught music theory?
My musical ear was so good that by the time I recognized a piece of music, I was no longer reading to get it done. The simple stuff that you'd play in school band, I played starting in. They early started me in 4th grade for a 5th grade band, and I played trumpet, and so that was the reading that I did in lessons.
Sure.
The minute I knew the song, I was off book, not reading anymore, not honing that skill, and inventing the parts that should have been in the arrangement. And so I would get side eye from my band director when I play the way it was supposed to be played, because I've heard it. You know what I mean, right? It's not this dumbed down 5th grade arrangement. I know how the real one goes. So.
Yeah.
So
filling in the gaps.
That was part of that. I was filling in the gaps, and so my relationship with the written music didn't evolve at all, but my ear continued to.
Okay.
So.
That's awesome. So you're doing music through like high school, and like, was that the main kind of your hobby
Pretty much
throughout your growing up?
Changed to, by the time high school rolled around, it was rock band in my basement. So my house, fortunately, was my parents very much supported me in having stuff like this around, because they knew about my musical. I was driven for it, and like piano lessons, like I say, didn't work out so great. But I had a 4-track and could play guitar and bass, and the drum kit lived at my house, so I learned to play that, obviously, and that's where our basement rock band was.
Did your parents also share the musical space with you? Like your dad?
There wasn't much performing or playing on the part of them. We had like a pump organ up and my dad would had a Baldwin organ that had the
Okay.
So we heard a lot of that, but there wasn't a lot of performing going on.
Cool. So then after high school, did you go to a college, a university?
Went to a little bit of audio engineering certificate program at Hutchinson Votech, which I don't believe even exists anymore, but it was 60 miles out west, Twin Cities.
Okay.
And there was a season there in school at some point where I was in the studio. In fact, I made the graduation pomp and circumstance. I actually built it on synthesizers, and that's what they played for graduation.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, crazy. But that was like the one thing I did during my official schooling as an audio engineer.
Sure.
Oh.
Other than that, I messed around in the studio, which is
Mhm.
kind of how things work
Did you
around
go,
here,
Yeah.
right?
Did you go to school then? Like, did you graduate college with some sort of other degree?
No, actually, I dropped out of school, dropped out of high school, 18 years old, or whatever, 17 plus, and was working as an assistant engineer at Danger Recording very shortly thereafter.
Oh, cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that was my first job in the studio
Oh, cool.
business, as a collaborator.
Yeah. So you learned your skills through like working.
Just
Mhm.
just doing it, having a smoldering interest in it. First of all, I mean that's the most of it.
Yeah.
Whether it's technology or learning a new instrument or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what instrument did you start with?
I suppose piano and then trumpet really early on because we had one in the house and my dad could show
Okay.
me how to play
Cool.
it. And so those are my first ones.
Okay.
Mhm.
Ukulele thereafter, I tortured my family with Delta Dawn on the banjo ukulele for like 600 miles on a car road trip one time.
Oh my
I
God.
remember that. So that's kind of where my fretted instrument.
I'm just picturing little Chuck Love in the backseat. His parents are like, stop, please.
It's the same. You don't even have to picture it. I would do that same shit tomorrow.
Put Chuck in the backseat with the Yuki any
All day long.
Can we find a clip of Chuck playing the metal sheet somewhere?
That would be dope.
And insert that.
It's probably judled somewhere.
I bet it's right around the corner here. We may have to.
Oh, you have your suitcase full of goodies.
No,
with you?
I don't think it lives in the suitcase. I think it lives here at Slam.
Oh, really?
Just
Secret. Okay.
We're not going down the body. But so after high school, you were working at that recording studio. So when did you become Chuck Love and start like producing music or tried putting it out as a project for yourself?
let me back up to one feature of that whole like post high school let's call it 1980.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents passed away, and I got some inheritance from that.
Mhm.
And I decided I was going to spend money on this awesome equipment that had just been kind of released and was the big thing at Roger Dodger Music. Roger Dumas, also a friend of the Slam. I purchased the OB8
The OBA.
and a DMX
Oh,
and
cool.
a sequencer in that package, and that was crucial in the fact that I was working in studios because I
Yeah.
had the cool stuff.
Yeah.
And this OB8 still lives here at Slam. Insert picture. And I'll give that a full exploration one of these days, and we'll make a production around that.
Sure.
That'd be really cool.
But
That would be fun.
so that was a big part of it. I had the gear, and that's why I was invited to Danger Recording, for example. We worked on the New Occupants projects, and that's kind of where my life in the studio started.
Cool.
Okay.
Like, and
All right.
with probably made a bunch of hit records with that gear.
Yeah, the New Occupants was the main project that relates back to that, and then followed by the Mystery Science Theater theme song. It still has patches from that in
there.
the
Oh, dang.
We'll
Really
we'll
cool.
find those in a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So, how long into, I guess, the Mystery Science Theater theme song? What year was that when you got to produce that? And how did you get that gig? I've always wondered.
Joel Hodgson, the creator of Mystery Science Theater, was dating my cousin at the time,
Nice.
and I was doing stuff, cameos at First Avenue, things like that. So he knew I was musical and
Mhm.
like that, and they came up with the need for the explanatory theme song. This is very early on in their, must have been their first season when they decided that they needed to have a theme song that explained the whole premise, so
Mhm.
that they didn't have to
Yeah.
along the way. So like the Gilligan's Island theme or whatever. So Joel and Josh Weinstein, J. Elvis Weinstein,
I've seen him perform live.
yes, of course, Neil's hooked into the comedy scene. So
Mm-hmm.
they were the writers of obviously the thing. We collaborated on it, and then I took care of that theme song for the next 35 years it's been now. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's really
Yeah.
cool.
that was like 86 or 7 when I think the first renderings went to the air. We'll have to kind of check it on.
Yeah. No, we
Mhm.
can fact
Timing.
check. We'll fact check you.
Yeah, just timing on
If we say it wrong,
when
we'll
the
put it up.
when the Comedy Central stuff landed. That's probably
That's cool.
Sure.
It was a Mystery Science Theater, just public access, or did it go like national?
Started on TV 23, which was KTMA. So that believe that's a UHF channel back in the day when there was that. Mm-hmm. So pre-cable, that was before their cable presence, which started on the Ha network or something like that. Turned into Comedy Central after a while.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I was going to ask about DJing and how you went from it sounds like you started as a producer and more of the studio technician guy, but you also are a DJ. So how did you make that transition from producing music to DJing? Or were you doing one first or both at the same time?
I was always fascinated. My DJ post, I would go post up at First Avenue in the booth, sitting next to Roy Freedom, who was the DJ for years and years. Mm-hmm. Danceteria was kind of the home base for that. And so that's where I got my perspective on this whole idea of DJing. And it wasn't until like 98 or 99 when everybody's a DJ all of a sudden, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And it was the very tail end of when vinyl was necessary to mix, actually. Mm-hmm. It's just before the pre-CDJ days, right? Okay. So that's when that transition was. It was, I was already producing music and had Blue Light Music, which was my studio after that, doing a lot of commercials and that kind of thing.
Sure.
So the production end of it was something that I already had going on. Started DJing just kind of as a bedroom DJ. Didn't know what music I wanted to play necessarily. I kind of liked the dusty, neo soul kind of sounding stuff that really had a vinyl vibe to it.
Yeah.
And so vinyl was part of that, collecting that and mixing records. Didn't get great at it, but my whole goal was to play my own music out. So the CDJ and the fact that you could play back that thing you just made this afternoon, that's when things click together as a DJ.
That's awesome.
For me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was a big part of my coming up and becoming Chuck Love that people knew at that point is that I would have the CDJ borrow it to Brian Gerard from Minneapolis Soul Music so that they could play a couple cuts, and I'd leave one of mine in there. And it's like, oh, dude, that's pretty good. So that's how I started my relationship with those guys.
Sure. Okay.
I had the gear. And then you just figure out how to turn it into a whole thing.
Just dropping seeds.
That's right. Dropping seeds. Wherever. Exactly.
Sorry, I left that song on that CD, buddy.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You never know how it's going to crack off after that.
Smart.
That's awesome. So did really quick, I found it's very interesting how you started where computers weren't even a big part of making music, and now they're one of the biggest parts of producing the music. Was it easy for you to were you on board with that transition as it was coming, or were you stubborn with it?
I was very on board with it. I was back in the day of 2-inch 24 track, and I owned a 1-inch 16 track open reel that was the multi-track recording format for Blue Light Music. So that and synchronizing that stuff to video, for example, was a whole situation. I mean, it would cost more to just get machines to run in sync than whatever. Now it all happens in your laptop. Mm-hmm. So I was very anxious not anxious, but enthusiastic about whatever technological stuff came down to make those processes easier. And so my first workstation thing was a Roland DM80, which was kind of a hard button digital editor. Probably recorded 12 minutes worth of stereo audio altogether, but it did non-destructive editing. So that was before Pro Tools or whatever. I think it was coming up right around the same time. But
cool.
I chose the hard button version of it that was a Roland piece and sounded good.
We'll put it on the screen. Got you.
Yeah, right on.
No, I was gonna ask just kind of fear that I'm loving technology's advancements, like how you can on Final Cut. Just put in all the audio and hit sync, and it syncs everything into one clip.
See, I haven't seen that yet, but you're going to show me how all this auto-conform stuff works, because I've done it the old-fashioned way. And
I was doing that for so long.
Yeah.
So hard. I got you, man. Sweet.
So yeah,
I'm still about it. Let's go.
Neil, we have some shit to talk about, and this is how Slam Academy works, people.
Yeah.
Because like-minded people that are trying to do stuff, somebody's already done it a couple times, and they'll show you. Yeah, exactly. So
new plugins, new software, new tips,
new tricks. So I'm just gonna keep it on the creative grind. Right now, are you producing any music, or have you been producing in the last couple of years?
Well, when I was here a little more actively in my residency here, I guess would be the best way to put it. I have my gear that lives here and drum kit and stuff like that. Since I was doing that and TAing a little bit, Creeperton came on the radar. I started building some bass music, and I had to do that just for self-defense. We'd be walking through any kind of a DJ class or producer workshop, and it's just car gargling, dumpster juggling, massive, awesome stuff. So I'm like, I got to make some of this bass music.
Hell yeah.
So I've got a trove of that needs to be branded and probably collabed and remixed and stuff like that. I would love to get a brand out. So maybe we can use that as a Slam launch project or something.
That'd be cool.
and have it be a
seeking all
some sort of a
collaborators.
Right. All bass collaborators can throw into it or something.
That'd be cool. We have a lot of crazy producers here right now, so Slam's been doing.
And then we'll just put an AI avatar in front of it.
There you go.
That will invent kind of like the gorillas, and
we'll call them Slam.
Yep. And it'll be But yes, I am producing music and doing remixing and and trying to come up with new ideas.
Yeah.
And exploring.
When approaching music, how do you what motivates your creativity when you're sitting in front of you about to create a piece of music? You're looking at a blank Ableton session, or you're.
That's tough, because the Chuck Love music that you'll find on the internet, that's all basically 4/4 house music, and call it by name as such, right? So it's pretty easy for me to sit down and get started with something that's 4/4 and going to be useful in what I would consider a Chuck Love set. If somebody would call me up and say they want to hear what I play, which they know. So to start in that ballpark, we're looking at house beats, first of all. That can be a really daunting non-starter of a place if you're just kind of thinking, okay, it's got to be, so I really love to get some kind of a chord progression or some kind of a vocal snap or hook that clicks before applying the drum treatment to it. Otherwise, I would just have a bunch of empty shell 124 4/4 drum beats laying around that just never went anywhere. But until there's a chord progression or a melodic hook or some kind of a lyrical snap to it, it doesn't really get off the ground. But those things go into the spank bank for recycling when those ideas come up. So it's it's kind of a crazy project. So process, I should say. Necessity kind of drives some of that. If I know I have a show coming up somewhere or whatever, and I'm going to be able to play something new, that's the excitement curve that drives my creativity on that, is just being the opportunity to play something new for these people, and that I've been up to something. So
that's cool.
That's always a motivating factor, and that's always what usually gets me back to the 4/4. Here it comes again, because I got to, this is going to be at 1:30 a.m. on a Chuck Love night, so it's got to have that flavor to it.
I want to talk about how you got into the Slam community, and how long have you been a part of this community? Because you have taught classes here before, right?
With Bionic especially, we did recording arts together, and so I was kind of the second.
Cool.
Yeah, his assistant and collaborator on that.
Sweet. So what was your start into Slam like? Did you just know JP?
Knew JP, I think, through the late night stuff. I think I was the Slam Factory regular. That's when I probably ran into anybody who dates back to the other space before I moved here to Waterbury. So, and then got involved with his project, which turned into Elaborate Heist.
Those were cool sets.
Yeah, and that was slightly before the move to here. So that my involvement with Slam dates back to that.
I'm just remembering the elaborate heist. That was what you guys played at Down the Rabbit Hole, right?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
that was such a good show. Do you guys
that was a
ever
lot of fun.
do you guys ever get together and play music anymore?
No, we're about to though. I'm sure at some
Okay.
point.
I just remember that show being one of the best I've seen. It
Right.
was so cool.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Having the
Doing
slam community on stage, doing a bunch of live instrumentals, drums, and JP on
The bleep bloops.
the bleep bloops and the chords,
Yep.
going places and doing things. Very inspiring. And so, are you still doing private lessons for slam?
Not at the moment. I've never really done one, but I'm trying to think about ways to
Sure.
get a curriculum together, or as an individual Sherpa
Yeah.
for a project or something like that.
Cool.
Be able to collaborate. Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds like house music might be.
That would be a conversation
cool
starter for sure.
collaborator. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, certainly something that's in my pocket.
Yeah. Cool. I also want to ask you about your journey with sobriety, because you've been sober for years now. And I want to ask how that has impacted your creativity, and what was that journey like from being not sober to sober in your musical
I've kind of done all of the things. I've been in the music world partying and
Mhm.
using and sober for a long period of time, and then after a relapse too,
Sure.
back. So, how has it affected the creativity part? Did you say?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think there's just I think when your mind is torn up with the chemicals, you're just such an easy mark. You know what I mean? You like your own stuff enough to not really be great quality control. So
Sure.
one of the things is just energy and inspiration to want to do things that are truly good.
Yeah.
And sobriety helps so much in that respect.
Mhm.
Um, I wouldn't say that people can't be creative if they're using or whatever, and that there's a whole different genuine or authenticity to the product when you're sober necessarily.
Mhm.
But it certainly feels like that is how the path works. And just use of time and what you put your energy into and having it be positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's quality control.
It's quality control for sure,
Yeah.
because you can really spin out with not great stuff
Right.
and think it's the best thing in the world. If you're just,
Get kind of lost down
yeah,
down that hole.
As you were becoming sober, were you worried of how like your creative output would be affected, or if you'd be as creative?
the creative output, I think, was always going to be something that would increase with that clarity and so forth. Obviously, the social components of, when we interact and want to do party stuff, and that's it. We're the center of the party, right? And so that it's definitely a trap for people who have the thing that I have, which is chemical dependency and
Mhm.
abuse disorder, alcohol abuse disorder. So yeah, you have to kind of look at how the social aspects of it will change up. And
100%.
I think the community is getting much, much more open to,
1,000%.
and supportive of, because we all know people have been through that shit, right?
Yeah.
I think the community is like growing up with the experiencing
Yeah.
like friends getting too off the deep end, and a lot of people being like, let's support anyone that doesn't want, so they don't have that.
Right.
Because we just
And-
want to
Yeah.
dance and have a good time.
And anybody who wants to party and gets away with it and it doesn't kill them, congratulations, mazel tov on that deal, because awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
Took way too long to figure that out the hard way too.
Trial and error, dude.
Yeah, right.
Trial and error. I see a lot of support in the artistic community, specifically around sobriety, and people who are creative themselves. I don't see a lot of peer pressure around. Like if somebody's like, oh, I'm good, I don't need a drink, I don't need any
Yeah.
XYZ. I see a lot of support because growing up not in a creative community that didn't exist. I'm from a very small town in Wisconsin, so there's just like a lot of peer pressure, but I see the flip going to a creative standpoint.
Yeah.
And the community just being so supportive around that, especially to like in this day and age.
I definitely feel that energy from the community. Yeah.
Yeah, there's the dance safe, like they have the Cosmics Energy, which is like no alcohol event, and I'm just like, that's pretty cool. That we're
There's
like,
going to be a lot more of that
yeah,
stuff.
that's a cool place where people don't feel like that's the center of the party. There might be other stuff, but not alcohol.
Yeah. Cool. Do you have any advice to somebody who is thinking about getting sober and maybe is afraid to make that jump?
Advice for somebody who wants to be sober is try it, see how you feel, first of all. I mean, a lot of times, especially if it's opiate related and alcohol related, you have to get over the hump of the initial withdrawal and stuff like that, and do that medically if you're in a situation like that. I've had very good support from the professionals in the health space that deal with addiction stuff and detox and so forth. And don't try and go it alone. That would be my advice for sure. And medically take care of yourself if you're at a place, especially with opiates and alcohol.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Real talk.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck.
No, it's a big part of my story.
Yeah.
And we're proud of you. It's good to see you standing here.
Married.
It's good to be here. Married. Oh my gosh, my wife is so wonderful.
Yeah, good job, bro.
Yeah,
I'm happy for you guys.
Yeah, I'm super pumped too.
So let's maybe switch it over to the promotional side of things.
Okay.
Because I'm curious how you book gigs and then promote them, and I'm curious what your social media game is like.
Okay, that's really an interesting question. How do I book gigs and promote them? I've had an agent over the years. That relationship has slowed down, but when I launched Love Network in 2010, that was kind of my own brand, and I was excited about the democratization of how music was being released and so forth. So, fortunately, I should say, I benefited from having a big label, Ohm Records, behind my house music career, kind of in the early 2000s, throughout the 2000s. But when the floodgates open and now everybody's got a label, and I just kind of embraced this open source idea of, okay, I'll just release all the stems and take all the remixes and then recycle them and release them again. And so that was kind of the concept for Love Network. Long story short, I started streaming in that period of time when it was back on Ustream and all this. There was a big presence of trying to push that stuff out and be very busy about it, and production stuff like this.
Yeah.
How do you shoot these things? There was a lot of energy was put into that whole thing, and the whole Love Network deal and Magic Hour video series that I produced.
I remember seeing some of those.
Yeah,
those
you've probably seen a couple of those. But the production values were pretty good, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of energy put into that promotional event thing. Have no idea where it went. Was it very well focused? Whatever. I love making the next cool thing, right?
Yeah.
I love trying to create. Let's go.
I'm not really that great at following through and to making sure the engagement is correct, or people are perceiving what I'm doing as what it is. And I guess I haven't. I've been in the grind of being a label guy, trying to grind out the next title, and here's a drop, and the lists of promos and just the promotional pool stuff. Haven't been that engaged in that, but I really love the idea that now it's democratized to the point where everybody can do it. But the quality control seems to be, kind of all over the place, right?
Yeah.
You got to scour far and wide to find the stuff you're looking for.
That's very true. So, are you on social media today? Are you doing anything for your music?
Nothing special at the moment, but that is about to change.
Sure.
I have a hunch.
That's gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean, there will be some social media.
So going to back to like the Chuck Love that was releasing house music, how did you get your first gigs and how did you like figure out how to navigate getting shows and stuff back when you started? I always find that pretty interesting.
Boy, how did it start? One of the things that was kind of crucial was Bar Le Cot. You know where that is? In Loring Park, right in the corner of Loring Park there. Cafe Le Cot, Bar Le
Oh, yeah,
Cot.
I know what that is.
I did a residency there that, I'm trying to even remember how I lucked into it. That was 20 plus years ago. But it kind of was that Sunset Cruise patio vibe set up. And so we'd bring out, and play kind of loungy, grown up, broken beat and house music, jazzy tinge stuff.
Cool.
And it was a thing. And
Can
playing with the band Tambuka was a project that has been a 20 plus year, 30 plus year project as well. And they were huge in creating a vibe there too. So Tambuka is Dean Vaccaro and Tim Schweitzer as DJs, and then we've had a rotating cast of members as instrumentalists that go along with this. Started at First Avenue back in the 90s. One of the residencies we had was this Lercot thing, and so that was with Tambuka, and also I was kind of quote unquote musical director there for a little bit, booking other things. But
cool.
the patio thing was a really cool thing, and it had a sound to it and a vibe that kind of got me started in terms of the DJing thing.
Sure. So you got a lot of other opportunities off of your
Then I
first
started making
residency.
music that fit into that
I see.
thing. That's where Chuck Love came into.
Okay, cool.
A spin-off of Tambuka and what I was doing at Lercot.
Because I've seen some of your live sets with the house music, and you're DJing, but then you have like your helicon up there, you have your trumpet, you're kind of doing a bunch of stuff on top of whatever you're DJing, which I've always thought was really cool.
Yeah, so it's a weird kind of a not a DJ set in a way, because I don't really do DJ stuff. I'm playing my own music in order beat matched. It's kind of like power karaoke or what? Yeah, I guess extreme karaoke. So that's kind of what it is.
For your, I have a question about that. For the music that you make for your sets, do you kick out the instruments from the stems so you can perform them?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah, there are definitely mixed minus versions of
beautiful.
A lot of my material, and then there are some that don't have it. And it was funny. There's a song called Beatdown that's got a really intricate mute trumpet solo on it, and I played it at a festival. I don't have a version without that, so it's going to be loud and it's going to be there, and I got to hit it exactly right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the artist Ott.
Yeah, I've seen him a couple times.
I was playing Wakarusa Festival with Ott,
Ooh.
And when we were riding back in the van, and he goes, "Dude, you weren't playing any of that." I said, quite the opposite, man. That mute trumpet solo comes up so hard, and I have to play it so accurately and on top of it's like the opposite of being able to fake it, because I can't, because I have to super make it, because otherwise I Milli Vanilli the shit.
Yeah.
Then, so he was like, "Oh, yeah, I've got enough pressure with the horn to actually turn the whole system down. You don't even understand."
Calling you out.
Oh, that's funny, bro.
Yeah, I had to straighten him out, man.
Wakarusa was a dope festival too.
That was a very.
I went
dope
there
festival.
the last year. It was awesome.
Cool.
You played a lot of cool festivals.
Yeah, Shambhala was the highlight for sure.
How did you get that gig, or like how did you feel getting that gig, and how fun was it?
That was super fun, and I felt great getting that gig. I'd been sort of on the wane. I hadn't been the Chuck Love machine that was happening kind of from 2006 to 9, maybe. That's kind of when I was most actively traveling, 2000 up to 2011 maybe. So it was really good to almost come out of retirement in a sense to do something like that. And it was, Fractal Forest is an amazing venue. Holy smokes.
So how did you get that gig? If you're kind of out of the
well, yeah, because I think it was connections from Canada that I'm still somebody's favorite DJ, somewhere in the food chain. So that's the cool thing about having your music be out for a while, is that you never know where it's going to land and who's going to be inspired by it or who remembers it. But that was at a time too, like what the Wakarusa thing was the reason I got a house DJ to play this late 2 a.m. set while the rest of the festival is closed is because my girlfriend likes house music. You know what I mean? So I've been kind of on the casino artist end of the Medina Ballroom version of
You mean to come throw
the
down?
DJ for a while. But so those opportunities come back just for that reason. Is that I remember that shit, and
Yeah.
I'll take it. Why not?
Yeah.
I think that's like a perfect example. Going back to what you said about your promotional aspect, is you just kind of put it out there and you move on to the next thing, and you're learning the next skill.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point to just touch on, because you have to just put your stuff out there. People are going to find you based off of maybe stuff from 10 years ago. Who knows?
Right. And the energy that you have as you're doing the creative thing and you're fired up about it, whether it's, learning a new technology. Wow, we got these little recorder things you can snap on your thing now. Let's figure out a reason to do that.
Yeah.
And so the content you create with that new thing that you're excited about will have an energy about that, whether it's a new instrument or a new patch you found or, a new kick sample or a new tempo or something like that. It
propels you on to the next.
That's what's going to get you fired up. And then, the grind thereafter of telling people how cool it was that you did that thing that day.
And the trick is just putting it out there while you're still in that excitement phase.
Right.
And you can still just
or at least
keep the cycle continuing.
At least being able to bottle up that phase for what it is and having the thing created, even though you might not be able to explain it to somebody quite yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I have all that Creeperton music that has never been put into any kind of context of me standing in front of a bass music set or
I've played one of those songs at a bass music set.
But
that was a long time ago.
Others have, and it's a long time ago. And it's like, okay, but that energy is still captured in all those songs.
Yeah.
So it's a great starting point. Mm-hmm. So then you listen to it a couple of years later, a few years later, and go, okay, that's a good starting point. It's not necessarily what I could stand behind today as being finished, awesome stuff, but that's what got the ball rolling, and now we can twizzle it into something cool.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's good leaving little breadcrumbs for yourself to come back to later, because even if you don't finish a project, I go back to old ones I did 3 years ago and I'm like, oh my God, this is actually like a really good start. And I'm inspired by my older self.
Because you can go through a phase where you lose interest in it.
Yeah.
And then forget how cool it was until you lap back with fresh, fresh vibes on it.
Yeah. Chuck Love with the fresh vibes.
Fresh vibes. So Chuck Love, here's another question for you. Who are some of your biggest influences? Like for how you approach music or how you?
Wow, it's hard to not be my age and not say Prince isn't a big influence.
He's a huge influence,
especially with your
for your
first
shadow, right? So he's would have been 5 years older than me, right? So I was always in the shadow of Prince and all the awesome things that he did. And also the guy that plays a bunch of instruments, you know what I mean? So it's really tough to be not Prince, but do all the Prince shit.
Right.
I even have an OBA, man.
I even have an OBA. So I think I'm very well formed by being not Prince and doing all the Prince shit. That would be a very good explanation of what.
I'm inspired by Prince, and I don't even listen to him that much. So,
beyond that, I was a big Beatles fan, Bob Marley, Talking Heads. I mean, go down the rabbit hole. Devo, early influences. I loved Thomas Dolby. Still playing that material like the other day, live with Richard. Yeah. There's a laundry list of awesome artists, and I could get specific about it, but I think that Prince connection and traveling in that sort of space is probably the most substantial and saturated.
Did you ever get to meet him or see him in person?
A couple times. Yeah, he actually picked me up. I was doing one of my cameos at First Avenue, which I would play a little 15-minute set or one song, 5-minute set, like Saturday night in the middle of Roy Freedom's Dance to Tyrius set.
Oh, dang.
And Prince happened to be in the club. I was doing some improv thing, but I had the OB8 and a couple of effects on, and I was snapping around or whatever. But I managed to get invited to audition for the band The Family. I don't know if you're familiar with The Family. It was Paul Peterson fronting it. They did the original version of Nothing Compares to You, was released on The Family's first record.
Okay.
They were looking for band members. That's another situation where I did get to audition. Didn't see Prince at that point, but to the others. But I couldn't read music,
Yeah.
so it was something where I was going to have to be the keyboardist that was filling in elaborate string arrangements. That was part of the deal. So I was just disqualified at that point. I mean, I got the audition out of cool points.
Hell yeah!
I got to meet Prince for a second, and then after that, when he had his stand of shows at the Dakota, I was on the crew for that. So I was in and out of Paisley Park a few times as backline technician.
Cool.
So yeah, I've been in and around the presence of all that creativity.
Mm-hmm. But how could you not be inspired by that?
But I never got fired, which is awesome. Probably would have.
Read your music, kids.
That's right.
I don't know how to read music.
Me neither.
Ableton helps me a lot with that. So
AbletonCheaterMode.com.
Both Amber and I are starting cello lessons, which is a very, very humbling thing. I've started messing with bowed strings about a year and a half ago. I bought a marketplace violin and just tortured my family and myself with the thing. It's like a couple of fighting cats strapped to your face.
It's funny how bad violin sounds till it's good.
Oh gosh,
it's so bad.
Man, I've got all ends. So back to square one now, wishing I would have learned to read music as I'm scrubbing Mary Had a Little Lamb on the cello, trying to learn it properly for once. Learn one of these fucking instruments properly.
Why can't I even believe that you could play an instrument bad? I just automatically see you.
Oh, I didn't say I was bad. I wouldn't say I'm actually pretty awesome on the cello.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, there's no.
But I'm not playing the cello. I'm not playing the cello properly at all. There's nothing about it that's bad. But well, no, there can be bad moments, and believe me, though, with the violin, there can certainly be bad moments. But anyway, kids, stay in school, read the music, and tough through it, and get some proper. If you're doing a keyboardy thing or a drumming thing or whatever, get the proper technique.
Do you have any other questions for Chuck?
I think we're at a good point now because we wanted to part 2 it at some point.
Sure, yeah. There will be a part 2. Chuck's got some cool new project in the works. Can't speak on it quite yet. So stay tuned for part 2 of Chuck Love, everybody. But before we land this plane, as Neil says, which I love, before we land this plane, do you have any advice you want to give to the slam community that's watching?
Stick with it. Reach out to me. I will collaborate on your project. Or something like that. I could play instruments or just talk about how cool your bass sound is.
Sure.
Or something like that. Love to just hit me with a DM and we'll sort that out.
Cool.
Perfect.
And then let's do a little white lies.
White lies, the truth. Wait. Can you go find the metal sheet? I want you to play the metal sheet for these people so they know.
All right.
They know who the real one is.
See if it's right around the corner.
Oh well. Oh no.
Ah, shoot.
No metal sheet.
No metal sheet.
I
Well,
was like beatboxing though.
Part 2. Bring BYOMS. Bring your own metal sheet. Cool. Thank you so much for being on this podcast, SlamCast. We're the coolest cats in the house.
In the house, cat.
We're not an outside cat. We're a SlamCast cat.
Make sure you hit up Chuck on the DMs for a collab.
You can play anything that you want. Maybe a metal sheet, maybe some violin. Beatbox on your beat.
On your beat, goodbye, bye, 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 bye.
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 Hi, JP.
Thanks for watching SlamCast. Wasn't that a fun episode?
Want to become a member at Slam Academy? Go to slamacademy.com for more information.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.